All right, I'm pleased to have the 35th mayor of the city of Hattiesburg, a guy that actually we visited with not too long ago. It was in November 7th when we did Marshall's Mississippi tour down in Hattiesburg, which of course seems like 6 million years ago. He was elected to the House of Representatives in 2007. He was elected as the 35th mayor of Hattiesburg, where he beat incumbent Johnny Dupree in 2017. He's got a Bachelor of Arts in Communications from Southern Miss and from 2004, a Master's in Science and Economic Development, and a degree that I guess he never thought he would be using quite like he's using today. He's got a Master in Healthcare Leadership from Brown University in 2015. And I guess that's a good place to start. When you were getting that master's, you didn't really ever figure that you were going to be helming a city in the middle of a pandemic.
No, I did not. I was prepared that it was going to launch me into some kind of healthcare consulting career, and I remember it was during the legislative session that we had the unit on pandemics, and I was kind of distracted during that time, so didn't pay attention a lot during that unit. But there was like an exercise that we had to do when we were in one of our in-session up in Rhode Island, and so. But during the pandemic, I had to play the role of the president at that time. And so I don't recall a whole lot about the situation, but did give me some exposure to what we could be facing. And I will say that program gave me a network of people who unfortunately were on the very early stages and front lines of the epicenter around Boston and Providence and places like that. And so they were very helpful to me from a mayor standpoint, who's just now we're kind of getting to our peak about what we could be facing and how we should prepare for that.
You were on top of this very early on. In fact, I think your first mask order was in March. I mean, that was way ahead of the curve on that. Was that some of the advice that they gave you, was to jump on it and try to get ahead of it?
It was, and they painted some very bleak pictures for us. For example, I had a classmate who said that, medical staff are working just 2 weeks straight on, and then they're sending them home for a day or two and then calling them back because other medical personnel are getting sick. And they said, we're not seeing as many traumas right now. We're seeing more suicides just from how awful it is at that time in late March, early April. And so for us, we put the order for employees first. We were still under shelter in place just to kind of get people used to doing it, because they were people that were interacting with the public even during shelter in place. And so that segued into, as people were wanting to open things up after the governor did, we said, okay, we'll open up, but here's the trade-off. We're going to wear masks when you go into shop places. And I think it really has, while there was a lot of pushback at first from certain segments, I think it has eased us into this so that we're not having to have this huge lifestyle change, midsummer. So, yeah.
What were some of the other pieces of advice that they gave you? Because like I said, they were so ahead of us and what happened. So, was there anything else that they gave you that you find particularly useful now?
It was more of everything was going to close, and you really have to prepare for conditioning people. This is a battle we're in for the long term, and particularly as it relates to mental health. And so that's one thing that we've tried to do in terms of communicating with the public to make sure that there are projects still happening, even though we can't use a lot of those projects right now, but just so they can see positive things happening around them while this is still going on.
I've noticed that y'all have launched a new campaign as business leaders and hospital folks, and you have launched up a new mask wearing campaign. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when we were starting to open things back up, I put together a group of community stakeholders that were kind of in different sectors: healthcare, hospitality, restaurant, just a lot of great business minds, because the strength of Hattiesburg is obviously not who sits at City Hall, but the creativity and talent of entrepreneurs and business owners and just people who just love their city. And so one of the things, as we were talking about masks and how we were starting to see numbers start to creep up a little bit and how we wanted to increase mask wearing, I came to the conclusion very early on, a lot with some of their advice too, that only a certain number of people are going to put their mask on because I told them to. And so the easier thing to do was to see your pastor and to see that business owner that you go to and that restaurant owner wear theirs and ask you to do the same, because everyone in our city has a circle of influence. And so while mine is relatively small, there are people who are really movers and shakers and who are respected in this community. And so to have them partner with us and say, absolutely, we're going to wear masks. And it's been very rewarding. And I look forward to that campaign. And I look forward to hopefully seeing our curve start to bend downward.
Yeah, I've noticed, you see the governor and he's like, look, I could put a mask order on the whole state, but nobody's going to listen to me. But it sounds like that is the magic bullet, is to not tell people what to do necessarily, but to show them that you're doing it and provide that kind of leadership there. What kind of media? Because I know there's everything from billboards to so forth. There's a really great creative effort behind this too.
Well, we have, I think, out of all the cities in Mississippi, we have the best communications officer in Samantha McCain. I know that you know her. But we've also brought other communications professionals. Marlo Dorsey with Visit Hattiesburg and her team, Millie Swan with Forest Health, Tracy Rouse with Merit Health Wesley, Christy Gould from Hattiesburg Clinic. And so all of those folks getting their buy-in and getting their expertise, as well as pushing in their bandwidth to push this out. We're tackling social media. We're going to do billboards. We're going to do traditional buys. Everything that we can do to try and make this a really regional approach that, even if you don't live here, because 50,000 people live here, but 150,000 come here to shop here and work here. We've got to make sure that we're, extending our reach as far as we can, because those people will ultimately come to Hattiesburg for their health care when they need it.
Obviously, and I've talked to several other mayors around the state, this is a challenging time, or whatever it is they say in the commercials. But I mean, obviously there is a revenue drop off because of sales tax. And you have requested that your departments expect to make a 6% cut. Talk about the effects on the budget in the city and things that you're doing to be able to keep services going and try to keep as many people employed as you can while you're dealing with challenging times and when it comes to tax revenue.
Yeah, and the financial impact was certainly one of the low points throughout this whole thing. We realized in late March that, if you remember, and again, you're right, it seems like so long ago, our city was shut down for the last half of March, and then it was shut down for all of April. We found out in late March that, or in late April, that our sales tax revenues for March were going to be very low. And they ended up being about 13% below where they were last year. And again, that's only for half a month. And so at that point, we made a difficult decision that we've got to do a reduction in force, not only to try and capture as much savings as we can, given the revenue uncertainty, but also to allow the people that we will be letting go to take full advantage of maximum unemployment benefits. Mm-hmm. And so we saw a 13% decrease in sales tax from last year in March. We saw 17% in April, which was actually better than we expected. But then we've kind of rebounded, and as things have opened back up, as people have kind of come to terms with this new normal and worn their masks and things like that, we had less than a 1% drop for the month of May. And so we anticipate that hopefully June, July, and August will kind of stay steady unless something crazy happens and we have to shut things down. But I think just given the uncertainty, aside from the 67 positions that we cut, 28 of them being filled, we're looking toward next year, and we've asked departments to find 6% savings on top of that to try and make sure that we can plan for a 5 to 10% cut in sales tax next fiscal year as well.
One of the challenges I know for every business owner is when one of their employees gets sick at this point. And I've noticed, I saw in the media where there had been some city employees that had tested positive for COVID, and somebody actually in the administration. Number one, you're healthy, I would assume, but you've probably been tested. How do you deal with that as manager when suddenly your police and your firemen start getting sick and so forth? I mean, how do you plan for that? You can't. You can try to mitigate risk as much as you can, and look, we lost an employee early on in this, and that's another low point that we'll never get over. I mean, just having someone so close get sick so quickly, and then not make it. So we've got 14 people right now who are COVID positive in our city workforce, and so including 2 in my office, and so you try to cover those positions as much as you can. You try to set a very honest dialogue with your employees that if you feel bad, just go home. Don't try to tough it out. I realize the American way is to just grind through it, but we can't have that right now. And so, we've had some tough calls. What we've tried to do now is we've closed city offices to the public for the time being, to try and let things kind of stable and reset. We've sent home people again who were over the age of 60, which we did before.
who have public facing jobs to go ahead and just send those home just so they can stay out of harm's way. And so I don't anticipate as much of a shutdown in terms of city offices as we did back in March and April, but certainly something we're trying to plan for and mitigate risk. And again, take care of our people because we are a family here.
Hattiesburg is a very dynamic city in the respect that you're driven by schools, you've got universities there, you've got Camp Shelby right down the street. So you have a lot of people coming and going in there a little bit. How is the hospital doing? Because I mean, how's Forest General Hospital doing? How's the healthcare? Are y'all ready in case the next month or two brings another second wave, as they say?
I think we're there now. I think both hospitals have hit their ICU capacity. Yesterday we had 73 people in both hospitals combined that were there for
Wow.
COVID. And so, so Merit Health Wesley has 17 to 18 ICU beds, and then they have a surge plan to go up to as many as 25 or 30. And so we're in that surge, starting that surge now. Forest General has about 48 ICU beds. They can go up to 60. Space-wise, they could do more, but just in terms of staffing, it gets really difficult at that point too, especially when you're starting to, a staff member here and there gets it and has to go home for 14 days. And so, I cannot say enough about the leadership at both of our hospitals who have developed plans, who were on the forefront of developing quick ways of testing people to keep people out of the ER, to keep other people from getting sick. However, we're at that stressed point. I'm not saying that we're at our maximum stress point, but we're certainly in our backup plan now. And I hope that what it will do is just get people to make smarter decisions individually in terms of what they do. And the governor's mask order is great because it covers more people than my mask order did. But ultimately, it's individual decisions on making the right call for yourself and the people who might be vulnerable around you.
I've said that people are going to really start paying attention to this when they start seeing their friends and family get sick on Facebook. And I think we've gotten to that point now.
Yeah,
definitely. All right. Well, a lot of good things are going on in Hattiesburg, and I don't want this all to be gloom and doom because frankly, there are good. Tell us a little bit, some of the things that you're managing to get done in the middle of the craziness of a pandemic.
I think, at first we were kind of taken aback that this was going to be a lost year for us. I mean, we had 8,000 people downtown for New Year's Eve, and it was I can't imagine how that many people in a space now without totally stressing out. But
is it not weird when you watch a movie and you see people together and you're like, no,
or pictures of myself with shaking hands with someone, and I'm just like, I'm never doing that again. So I think for us, it's the temptation has been, when you get through a situation like this, you focus on the low points but we have to remember that we will get through this. And the things that we do right now can better prepare us as we retool while we're kind of shut down with a lot of our events. And look, Hattiesburg is a fun place to live. And so to have the Sanger closed for pretty much the entire year, that's been a struggle, but it's enabled us to get a lot of projects done and to retool our downtown. Like, for example, we've done at least probably half a dozen murals this year that when people come back downtown and they're comfortable getting back out, they're going to be really surprised. It's a really fun place. We've had people step up and invest in public art. The one thing about economic uncertainty is usually your bids come in a little bit lower when you're trying to do big capital projects. So we've done a lot of road work. We're continuing to invest in some creative ideas in terms of once we do get back out, we'll be prepared to kind of move forward. I think the thing that we kind of want to make sure is that we get both our universities back, that we try to mitigate that risk as much as possible, while understanding that those students are a vital part of the quality of life and the feel of this city. And it has been very different to go on campus and not having anyone there. It's like an apocalyptic type feel. Yeah. But I hope that in the midst of the struggle we're having, that a lot of good things are happening, and it's making government rethink how it does business and how it engages the public. And so with those things in mind, we're going to be fine. And I hope that Hattiesburgers and I hope that Mississippians also remember, while they're sitting at home, they can fill out their census form because we can do better than what we're doing right now. And as an organization who really had a great strategy of public engagement, which involved a lot of events, and suddenly that strategy just went, kaput. we're hoping that we'll see better results with that. But it's going to be fine. We're in this for probably another year, I think. But if we decide that taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other is a community value, one that I think Mississippi is prone to do, even though it's looking a little bit different with this crisis.
Yeah.
If we decide that, and if we work those things in our everyday life, we'll get through this. We'll get through it fine.
We saw that spirit after Katrina, and particularly in Hattiesburg. I know we saw that there because y'all got particularly hit hard. And I think we're going to start seeing that again as things get a little bit tougher on that. You talked about taking care of yourself, and your job is a 24/7 job. It was before the pandemic. I mean, everybody I've ever known has been mayor. It's like, yeah, you go out to eat after church and somebody asks them about how my garbage wasn't picked up. It's an all the time job. What are you doing personally to stay in good mental and physical shape during this? Because it's got to be, you got to have a ton of stress on you right now.
Yes.
Yes. That would be correct.
Yeah. I think that, again, there have been a lot of low points and just, times where it was really, it's just awful. But at the same time, I'll also remember the people that stop me when I'm walking a dog at late at night, and just to say, hey, we're thinking about you, we're praying for you. We the random text messages of encouragement after you read a few comments on Facebook. So I think that you take it a day at a time. You accept this is kind of the new normal, but you also remember that you've got to be there for your people. And I will say that one of the true silver linings in all of this is that there are no town hall meetings to go to at night. And so while I may have to come back late to work, I have never had this many nights with my 3-year-old and 2-year-old to do bath time and bedtime. And I will never have this moment like this with them, this degree of, even if it's just an hour and a half, in the middle of the evening that I get with them, I'll never have that time again. And so it's been, as you try to explain to them why they can't go see friends and why they can't do all these things and they can't see their grandparents as much. I mean, you go through that process, but at the same time, you're thankful for the time that you do have right now. And so I don't know. I think that there's providence involved. There's strength that comes down from our Creator that will sustain you. And every now and then, a little bourbon helps too, I guess. So I want to exit that one out, but anyway.
No, I think everybody's probably nodding going right now. Yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah. So, but no, it's fine. I have been tested several times, after the Capitol outbreak when I was up there for a day, and then after folks in our office came down with it. But the swabs have gotten smaller, which is good.
That is very good news, because you never thought you'd ever have somebody touch your brain before.
No, I mean, it's kind of like you know what position to get into now, and you know what to do, and it works fine. So,
well, I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad you're healthy and happy. And like I said, if there's anything we can do here at Mississippi Today, let us know and tell your story. But I appreciate you coming on today and talking to us, and it's always good to visit with you.
Hey, and look, I want to thank you for, again, I know I say it a lot, just how much how much you put how we're all feeling so accurately on paper. And of course, I think every Hattiesburger will always thank you for what you drew after our 2 officers were killed back in 2015. Yeah. But even the narrative around the state flag and how hard that was for some of us to come out in favor of that 5 years ago. But then especially as the momentum grew, and I'm just so proud of my old colleagues for doing that. But I think that you really, I think you capture the psyche and the feeling and just the weight of it all with the people of our state. And so I think maybe you should think about running for office at some point too. So
I can't remember anybody's name. Yeah, that's my problem.
It'd be great campaign signs. I mean, we could just, take it to a whole new level.
I'd have to draw cartoons making fun of myself. That would be weird.
Know. So,
well, thank you. That's very kind to say. And I've got a lot of friends in Hattiesburg, and it's always, I miss being able to get down there. I want to come back down. There's several of the restaurants I want to eat at, and leave a few dimes and dollars your way too. But it's like I said, I thank you for visiting with me today. I really enjoyed the time when we came in November. That was just such a really special evening, and you were a big part of it. And I want to say thank you for that too.
Hey, thanks a lot, and take
All
care.
right. All right. See ya. Thank
See
you
ya.
so much.